Good morning and welcome to Namaste today, a loving way to begin every day. I'm Christopher Witecki, your humble host and spiritual life coach. This audio blogcast is for Tuesday, February 7th, 2017. Thanks for logging in, my friend, and Namaste. Well, today we are on countdown to a lunar eclipse on Friday, and the clouds begin to blow in, and emotional high tide is beginning to rise. That means I think the global consciousness is going to start to get a little moody. In today's zodiac weather, I'll give you tips on how to handle that emotional storm. And later in our tea time, it's time to bring up old black Lilith. That is where the source of our fears are, according to astrology, and I'll be pointing out that she's about to shift signs. We'll talk about that over tea. But first, let's take a look at today's moods and your zodiac weather. This zodiac weather is for Tuesday, February 7th, 2017. And my prediction for the global consciousness is cloudy with extreme chance of moodiness today. The moon moves into Cancer, and we're on countdown to a lunar eclipse on Friday. On top of that, Mercury's offline and Black Lilith is being tested. Let's take a look at the planets. Well, for beginners, my friend, today is a Step 19 day. Step 19 adds to a 10, which means it's a day of manifestation. So today, you are manifesting. And what are you manifesting? You are beginning to manifest the next frequency, the vibration of where you believe you belong. But this is, of course, all theory right now. We have a lunar eclipse coming up on Friday, and that could disrupt our perceptions about things. So expect the unexpected, especially in an Aquarius lunar eclipse. So I think everyone is feeling uneasy, unsettled, not grounded, uncertain. And yet you're supposed to manifest today? You're supposed to produce? The answer is yes, you are supposed to produce. The 9 in the 19 is our Aries energy, and so there's a lot of aggressive Mars energy going on the planet today. In fact, Mars and Venus are going back and forth with each other. They are conjunct. This means inside of you, your male energy and your female energy might be in a little bit of a tug-of-war at times. The way this plays out is you ask yourself, I don't know if I'm open to this or open to that. And then you think, oh, I should go this way. No, maybe I should go that way. So kind of that old stepping on your feet, going left and right and not going anywhere at the end of the day, Mars conjunct Venus. Now, my opinion is it's because you're supposed to sit down and consciously process it, not do anything. But when Mars gets next to Venus, you feel this desire to create, change, do, now. There's no time. Like you just feel this, basically spontaneous creation energy coming together. And if you don't have a plan or know where you're going, it can create a little anxiety. So best thing to do today, channel that creative energy into what you know. Pick the low-hanging fruit. Stay on the course. This is not a time to change direction. Now, adding to some of the confusion, Mercury today catches up to Aquarius. Mercury's at step 0 Aquarius for most of the day. It's my experience that when Mercury goes into step 0, it's almost like a Mercury retrograde for one day. Like things get funky, there's disruptions, because literally our intellectual consciousness is changing channels. Mercury is still catching up from the retrograde we went through over the holidays in early January. But now that Mercury is caught up to Aquarius, things should feel a little bit more unified inside of you because your mind and your heart will be on the same page in the next day or so. It's been a little frazzling with our mind and our heart sort of separated. And then another point of confusion is Saturn, which has been just racing along Sagittarius, heading for the galactic center. In layman's terms, that means we've been getting more responsible about what we believe, and I think that's because we have been witnessing in the world things we can't believe. So one thing we can't believe after another thing we can't believe actually forces us to believe. Well, now that Saturn's at step 25, it means our spiritual opinion is coming through now and will be for about 10 days. So that means we're not sure what we believe. We're confused in what we believe. So in this 1 degree, after climbing and thinking we're no and thinking we have focus, there is this degree of fogginess. And the answer is you've got to ask within. Your spirit is going to fill in these answers for you. Your spirit is going to tell you. But When things are all freaking out around us and changing, it's hard to focus on spirit, right? And that brings me to emotion. The moon is in Cancer today, and Cancer is the home sign of the moon, so this is the richest, thickest emotion we go through in a given month. And because this full moon lunar eclipse on Friday is in Leo, it means we're going to have this thick emotion followed by a full moon lunar eclipse, more emotion. So this week is definitely an intense emotional week. But one thing happening today and only today is the moon is squaring this Venus-Mars issue I was talking about. So basically, this is like a toddler. I think we're going to feel like a toddler today, stuck in too tight clothes with the sun in our eyes. You know what I mean? Just like, not liking it. And the irony is, as the moon is squaring Mars and Venus, as we're facing fears about going or not going or opening up or not opening up, the moon is actually trining Neptune, which means psychic intuition is pouring in the whole time we might be struggling with these other two parts of ourselves. So, put in simple terms, I know it might be difficult, but today is definitely the day to go within, use the force, and allow only your spirit to guide you, because the other energies are all turbulent. And speaking of turbulence, the Grand Queen of Turbulence, Old Black Lilith, which is also known as Black Moon Lilith, will be moving into Sagittarius soon, and I thought to myself, let us go back and see what Black Moon Lilith has been doing in the sign of Scorpio. So go steep yourself some tea, and let's have our daily tea time. Hello, my friend, and welcome to our tea time. Today's tea time topic is Old Black Lilith. And when I say Old Black Lilith, I'm talking about Black Moon Lilith, which is a calculation astrologers use to kind of determine where people are purging and facing their deepest fears, their deepest angsts. In fact, there's actually 3 different heavenly objects we use called Black Lilith. There's an asteroid. There's a Waldermath moon Black Lilith, which is also known as Dark Moon Lilith, and this is supposed to be the darkest point, or where your soul can kind of rage. And then there's Black Moon Lilith, which is based on the apogee of the moon's orbit. Apogee, by the way, is the farthest point of the orbit, so the farthest away point of the orbit. So since the moon is a motion, all right, Black Moon Lilith is the farthest point emotion can get away from us. That's probably the best way to look at it. So the farthest our emotions can get away from us. And this particular orbit, which is a calculation, has a very slow orbit. It takes 9 years to go through all the signs, which means we stay in these certain signs for some time. In fact, it's about almost a year per sign is what it is, like 9 months. So I've been tracking Black Moon Lilith because Black Moon Lilith, in simple astrology like day-to-day horoscopes, tells me where the global society is facing their fears, where they're facing their deepest pains. And if you go back to your natal chart, where your Black Moon Lilith is, you'll know where your soul was already afraid and already sort of suffering when you were born. Now add on where Black Moon Lilith is today, and you get kind of, one fear triggering another and so on. And this is the echoing of fears. Well, I don't know about you, but I have been feeling a lot of irrational fear, particularly in the last week. And that's why I went to look up Black Lilith. Like, where's Black Lilith? Now, Black Lilith is in Scorpio and has been in Scorpio since really May 22nd of 2016. And so I started thinking back, honestly, this fear consciousness, which everyone's talking about on Facebook, and the fear consciousness that everyone's talking about around the election, I think all of this is Black Moon Lilith. And having it in the sign of Scorpio tells me that we are facing our fears about really our darkest dark, and that's what Scorpio is. Scorpio is the part of us that we hide from ourselves. Scorpio is the unknown. Scorpio is the possibility of death. Scorpio represents this Halloween sort of energy. And so with Black Moon in Scorpio, it's like it's been Halloween since May of last year. It really is. That vibration of spooky, something could go wrong. And I really felt irrational fear around the elections. And I looked it up, and sure enough, Black Lilith was at step 18 around the national elections, which means we were fighting our fear. Step 18 is basically the fighter. We're basically going to go out with a mission, so you have this energy of our fear and coming up like as a mission to us, something we had to act on or react on. And of course, Black Lilith has been climbing ever since. And as of now, this week, Black Lilith is at step 29, Scorpio. Thank God she is at the final and tested degree. But I was saying a little earlier, I don't know about you, but as early as like Friday, Saturday, I started having a lot of irrational fear come up again. And this has been coming up in waves for me, irrational fear. What I mean by irrational fear is I might have gone to the gym and meditated and everything be fine. And all of a sudden, I'm afraid of stuff. Suddenly, I'm afraid of everything. I'm afraid of something happening right now. I'm afraid of something going wrong with my business. And I catch myself in it. And I'm like, what is this? Where is this fear coming from? And for me, I'm silly goose. I mean, I'm an empath. A lot of it, of course, I think is the whole world is full of a lot of fear and anxiety, and I'm picking up on it. But I never remember that when I'm freaking out myself. I always think something's wrong with me first before I realize maybe I'm picking up on someone else. But after doing some clearing everything else, I'm like, no, this is, and doing some meditation on the fear itself. When I felt through it, I'm like, no, this is ancient spiritual fear of mine that doesn't have necessarily anything to attach itself to now, but it's still just oozing up like tar in a pond. So I bring all this up because you might be feeling the same way. You might be having this kind of old dark Lilith, old black Lilith fear coming up, and I kind of think there should be some sort of a soulful song about that, old black Lilith. And I want to tell you, we're almost done. In fact, Black Lilith moves into a new sign of Sagittarius on February 15th, so the day after Valentine's Day, which is kind of interesting. And at that point, conscious fears moves away from sex, death, taxes, betrayal, all those Scorpio dark potentials. And I'm not trying to be negative about Scorpio. It's just Black Lilith brings up the negative, of the sign. So we've been facing all the most negatives, all the most fear we have of Scorpio energy. Now Black Lilith moves into Sagittarius, meaning we're going to face our fears about being wrong, believing the right thing, being misinformed, being on the wrong, being on the wrong educational path, heading in the wrong direction. Basically, the arrow is the Sagittarius, the idea that you point and shoot. And so all your fears around something with that going wrong in life, where you aim, point, and shoot. And Black Lilith is not going to stop. In fact, it gets more intense, honestly, as the year goes on. But I don't think Black Lilith will feel so dark and dreary with, worry over our shoulder like it has in Scorpio. I think in Sag, it'll just be a lot of heated debate, a lot of passion, probably a lot of protests, a lot of moving up of that ante. But Black Lilith and Saturn start to come together on August 21st. They actually conjunct. So that means by August 21st, we're going to have to face and be responsible about our fears. That's different from just having your fears off to the side. This is the universe saying, nope, you got to face it now. So we're going to face our fears somewhere around August 21st. And, sometimes facing fears is kind of like a Cuban Missile Crisis. It's like there's a crisis, there's no solution. You just have to face your fears and deal with it. I don't think it'll be dark like that, Cuban Missile, by the way. I think it will be some sort of constitutional crisis or something with the way things seem to be going, which I think our whole country would now accept because we are looking for integrity. Then on November 10th, old Black Lilith moves into Capricorn. And that means we'll start to have fears come up about how are the decisions we made, the leadership we're taking. And this could be the beginning of the dissolving of human faith in the current establishment, which I think is kind of inevitable, as I've been talking about with the human re-evolution coming up. And then by December 21st, Saturn joins Black Lilith in Capricorn, and that's when I have been predicting things get really serious. And Black Lilith on that day will be 4 degrees Capricorn, which means the fear changes its whole tone once Saturn arrives. Now, I don't want to make you afraid. In fact, on the contrary, the reason I'm bringing up old Black Lilith is I don't think there's actually anything to fear but fear itself, to quote FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Because Black Lilith represents where our souls don't have either this fear to release, or our souls need light brought in. That is information, love, soothing, nurturing. And once those two processes are over, it goes through. One thing about this irrational fear that came up with me the last week is it came up and I faced it. I said, well, I'm going to do this and do this and do this and do this. And it's like once you face the fear and don't allow it to rule your life, it just disappears. And in a way, you're just like, damn it. You know what I mean? Like, why wasn't it that easy the whole time? But that's the nature of fear. So, my friend, don't let old Black Lilith scare you too much right now, and realize she is at step 29, Scorpio, the most tested and intense degree of the entire sign until February 15th. Don't even put a lot of pressure on your Valentine's Day, because things won't be chill till the next day. All right, well, I am so grateful for you tuning in today. I hope you have a lovely day and it's not too moody. Remember, friend, I sincerely love you, and live, love, be.
Live, love, be.